I'd like to remind members that they can get a voting card from the clerk sitting on this side of the House. However, during statements by members and oral questions and the Committee of the Whole, the voting cards will be distributed in the hall behind the Speaker's chair.
Déclaration des députés.
Statements by members.
Member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take this time to congratulate Nunavut's newly elected MLAs, Speaker, Executive Council, and new Premier Paul Kwasa. As I'm sure all members in this House can agree, there's an incredible amount of work that goes into an election. So I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate them again on their hard work and their achievements thus far. This is an important time for Nunavut. With our 20-year anniversary fast approaching, we reflect on how we have grown as a territory, the progress we have made, and the lessons we have learned. We use this knowledge to determine how to best move forward as we look to the future. With the fastest growing population in Canada, many of the challenges we face, including education, housing, and healthcare, are only going to become more pressing. Addressing these issues are vital to securing a bright future for Nunavut. I look forward to working closely with the new territorial government, Premier Kwasa, and to help ensure that Nunavut shines. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Most of us know the oldest professional theatre company in Canada. It's Stratford, of course. But I'm sure most of you do not know the second oldest. It's Theatre Newfoundland and Labrador. And their Grossmore Theatre Festival, based in Grossmore National Park, is now the economic backbone of the community of Cowhead. According to Mayor Adrian Payne, things didn't look so great for the former fishing community, but theatre swept in, and now the town is a cultural destination for locals and tourists alike. I was excited to be with Adrian and others to announce combined funding of $4.2 million to construct a new dinner theatre and a production complex. Everyone is applauding the investment as their audiences have grown from 1,200 to over 12,000, and they turn away people every night. TNL is known for exceptional experiences, talented performers, magical technicians. However, they are especially known for theatre based on our incredible local Newfoundland and Labrador stories. The entire region is excited about the expansion, the construction, the new jobs, and opening in 2019. Come and experience in the performing arts.
The honourable member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, as we transition from Thanksgiving to Christmas, we move from the state of I'm thankful for to the state of I want more. Every day we're bombarded with images of things that we just must have. We somehow believe that these things will bring us happiness. They ultimately never do. As Christmas approaches, may we rather focus on the birth of Jesus and be reminded of his unchanging message of hope, peace, and love. In a world at times absent of love, at times absent of peace, it may seem hopeless and discouraging, but let's remember that the message that was given to the shepherds. The angels declared, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people." Hear, hear. Jesus, the wonderful counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. As parliamentarians, let us remember the foundation of our dominion. May we remain ever hopeful, ever faithful to the promise that is Canada, and turn to the Prince of Peace for all the guidance and directions in whatever we do in this place. He is the one who has dominion from sea to sea. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish the members of this House and all Canadians
Honourable member for Brossard-Saint-Lambert.
Mr. Speaker, last week our Queen and Prince Philip celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary. Sa Majesté
Her Royal Highness and the Duke of Edinburgh have the longest marriage in the history of the British throne. This is another joyful milestone for our head of state. In fact, last year, Her Royal Highness became the first Canadian monarch to reach the age of 90 years.
Globe and Mail stated last July that the monarchy is the bedrock of Canadian constitutional order. I firmly agree, and I've always believed that. I am proud to be a strong monarchist, holding firm to the belief that historical continuity is the best anchor for bold and progressive governance.
I'd like to give my warmest wishes to Her Royal Highness and the Duke of Edinburgh, who continue to serve as an example of love and devotion, and I hope they will for many years to come.
In His Royal Highness. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Burnaby South.
Mr. Speaker, during the 2015 election, the Prime Minister promised he would protect British Columbia's coast against Kinder Morgan. Well, he broke his promise and is now working to ram this dangerous new bitumen pipeline through our beautiful province. While 18 court cases have left the fate of this pipeline in limbo, Kinder Morgan has already broken the law by setting up salmon-killing, anti-spawning matting in our rivers with plans to set up more in dozens of locations. The National Energy Board issued stop work orders, and my inquiries indicate the BC Oil and Gas Commission will also officially sanction the company. Kinder Morgan has erected a Guantanamo Bay-style compound in the Burrard Inlet, complete with razor wire fencing. The company's private security firms harass recreational boaters on a daily basis, and I now have asked the RCMP to investigate. While the Prime Minister and his Liberal MPs have sided with Kinder Morgan against BC, we will not stop fighting this project until it is abandoned. We will protect our coast.
Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to address this House as the new Member of Parliament for Lac-Saint-Jean. First of all, thank you to all members of Parliament for their warm welcome. My arrival here in this House will be indelibly etched in my memory. I'd also like to thank the constituents of my riding of Lac-Saint-Jean for placing their trust in me. Since October 23rd, I have been hard at work for the families of my region. I'm proud to be their representative. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bow River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to pay tribute to the life of George Freeman. George was a pillar of his community in the town of Strathmore. He was a World War II veteran. He was the last living resident of Strathmore to have stormed the beaches on D-Day. He was honoured with the French National Order of the Legion for his efforts. He devoted decades of his life to Ducks Unlimited and played a key role in many conservation projects throughout southern Alberta. He served as the Strathmore Fire Chief and Director of the Calgary Zoo. His deep devotion to his community was apparent in the countless local charities that he was involved in. His tireless efforts earned him the nickname Mr. Strathmore. I offer my sincere condolences to his family and many friends. George Freeman, a truly great Canadian. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here. The honourable member for Don Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we were witnesses to the historic apology made by the Prime Minister to the LGBTQ Canadians who have been wronged by federal legislation, policies and practices. But we were more than witnesses. We were participants, and I wish to thank every member of this chamber who was here sharing in this historic and for me deeply personal moment. As a young person growing up gay, I never ever imagined this day. Throughout my lifetime, Canadians were fired from jobs, discharged from serving their country, denied access to justice, and convicted of crimes for simply being themselves. Mais, Monsieur le Président.
But, Mr. Speaker, rest assured that our work does not end here. There will be concrete reforms to rectify the injustices that continue to be experienced every day. Together, let us continue moving toward a stronger, more diversified, and more inclusive society.
Today was the start, not the end.
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, this week we have some of Canada's best athletes in Ottawa. I'm talking about the amazing individuals from Team Canada's Special Olympics who have trained with blood, sweat and tears in order to do Canada proud. And proud they did. In March, Team Canada flew to Austria and scooped up 29 bronze medals, 52 silver medals, and 63 gold medals. Wow. Mr. Speaker, I would like to especially recognize Catherine St. Amand, an Olympic alpine skier from my very own riding of Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge. I was beyond honored when Catherine came into my constituency office shortly after the Austrian Olympics in April to show me her very own hard-earned silver medal. Mr. Speaker, I would like everyone in the House to know of the perseverance of our Special Olympic athletes and of their sheer skill in representing Canada on the world stage. Thank you.
The honourable member for Langley Aldergrove.
Mr. Speaker, the Christmas season is here with wonderful music and beautiful decorations. But the Christmas story is, there were shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flocks by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were afraid. But the angel said to them, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For to you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You'll find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger." Suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill towards men." That peace, love, and kindness is God's gift to each of us, and the gift of Christmas that we can share with those in need. So Merry Christmas to everyone.
The honourable member for Fredericton.
I rise to commemorate the life of the Honourable J. Robert Howe, who passed away unexpectedly on November 25th. Former Member of Parliament for the Fredericton riding, then known as York-Sunbury, Bob was first elected in 1972, was re-elected 4 times, and retired from politics undefeated in 1988. Bob was a fierce advocate for children and for veterans. In 1979, he was appointed to Privy Council as Minister of State for Marine Transport, and he was appointed Queen's Counsel in 1981. Ever present in the community, Bob served as president of the YMCA, volunteered at the Fredericton Community Kitchen, and was a devoted member of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. Bob enjoyed telling jokes and sharing his wisdom with everyone over a cup of coffee at Reed's Coffee Shop, where he could be found holding court in recent years. Above all his accomplishments, Bob's family was his greatest source of pride and joy. We extend our thoughts and prayers to his loving wife, Nancy, and to the entire Howe family.
The honourable member for Nepean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. The date of 29 November was chosen by the United Nations in 1977 because of its meaning and significance to the Palestinian people. On this day in 1947, the United Nations adopted partition resolution that provided for the establishment in Palestine of a Jewish state and an Arab state, with Jerusalem as a corpus separatum under a special international regime. Of these 2 states to be created under this resolution, only one, Israel, has so far come into being. Even today, the question of Palestine remains unresolved, and the Palestinian people have yet to attain their right to self-determination, the right to national independence and sovereignty, and the right to return to their homes and properties from which they have been displaced. This is not acceptable, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, today I have the privilege of welcoming some outstanding Canadians to Ottawa. The athletes and coaches participated in the 2017 Special Olympics World Winter Games in Austria. In the fall of 1968, Dr. Frank Hayden from London, Ontario, started a sports program for persons with intellectual disabilities. After his research showed how beneficial physical activity could be for them. This caught the attention of Eunice Kennedy Shriver, who founded the Special Olympics and recruited Dr. Hayden to work alongside her using his Canadian blueprint. I've always been a huge supporter of the Special Olympics, and many of us are fortunate to have these athletes who hail from our ridings. Not only does the Special Olympics motivate these athletes to get active and stay healthy, it also teaches important life skills, such as teamwork, leadership, and socialization. I would like to congratulate all the athletes and coaches who are here today, and as it is truly an honor for myself and all my colleagues in this House to celebrate your accomplishments with you.
Honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday was an historic day for equality and human rights as all parties joined together to apologize for Canada's history of discrimination against the LGBTQ2 community. To those who were criminalized for loving someone or for simply being themselves, for those who were purged from the public service, the military and the RCMP, nothing can erase the pain they have experienced. Yesterday we took an important step to start making amends. We affirmed that a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, regardless of who they love, what gender they identify with, or how they express that gender. À tous ceux
To those who made this historic apology and the financial and legislative measures that went with it possible, thank you so much. In particular, I'd like to thank the We Demand an Apology Network, Equal Canada, the LGBTQ2 Secretariat, and especially the many survivors who shared their devastating stories.
Heard, Mr. Speaker, and their voices matter.
The honourable member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Elena Yurlefa has fought against state-enforced labor in the cotton fields of Uzbekistan for nearly 26 years. Every autumn, over 1 million Uzbek citizens are forced by their own government to leave their regular jobs and go to the fields to pick cotton, a large portion of which ends up in our global supply chains and in our linen closets. After all these years, Uzbekistan is finally changing course on this practice, mostly due to Elena's brave efforts. Elena has received multiple death threats. She's been beaten, locked up, and confined to psychiatric hospitals. Still, she continued to protest outside of courtrooms, continued to take her camera into the fields to document abuses. Elena is one example of the incredible bravery that inspires human rights defenders all over the world. Their sacrifices continue to bring about profound change. On this International Women Human Rights Defenders Day, I celebrate the achievements of such remarkable women.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
I'm pleased to rise today as the new Member of Parliament for Sturgeon River Parkland. I want to thank my constituents for placing their trust in me to represent them in this place. I thank my campaign team for their countless volunteer hours to make this dream a reality. And I want to thank my friends and family for their standing behind me with their love and support. This day would not be a reality. The people of Sturgeon River Parkland elected me to do one job, to hold this government to account. They want a government that puts the rights of victims and their families, not criminals, first. They want a government that doesn't give tax breaks with one hand and nickel and dime them with the other. And they want a government that puts the long-term growth and prosperity of all Canadians first. On October 23rd, I heard the message loud and clear, and I'm here to deliver that message. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Argenteuil-la-Petite-Nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of all Canadians, the Government of Canada would like to congratulate the athletes, coaches, and support teams wearing the maple leaf as Team Canada at the 2017 Special Olympics World Winter Games in Austria. This is the largest team to have participated in these games to date. From March 18th to 24th, Team Canada, including 110 athletes representing the 12 provincial and territorial sections of the Special Olympics Games, will participate in 6 sports: downhill skiing, cross-country skiing, figure skating, indoor hockey, snowshoeing, and speed skating. To all the members of Team Canada, Canadians from coast to coast, thank you for your passion and for your tireless commitment. We'd like to congratulate you for rising to the highest level of your sport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, in addition to not following the rules, the Minister of Finance has a very bad record, despite what he and the Prime Minister have claimed. The deficit has doubled. Richest Canadians are paying less in tax, and middle-class families are paying 80% more on average. Now, the Minister is unable to count, nor can he follow the rules. So why, then, is he still Minister of Finance? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I continue to have full confidence in the Minister of Finance. Just look at the 500,000 new jobs created. He dropped taxes for the middle class, increased them for the richest 1%, delivered a child benefit that is helping 9 families out of 10. He has reduced child poverty for 40%. He's giving more money to most vulnerable Canadians and seniors, decreasing taxes for small and medium-sized businesses. He is managing an economy that is doing the best in the G7. So yes, we continue to have confidence in the Minister of Finance.
Chef de l'Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister, that's just simply not true. Not only is the Finance Minister failing to follow the rules, he's also not very good at his job. He promised to run a deficit of only $10 billion, and of course he's blown right past that. He promised that wealthy Canadians would pay more, but after his measures came in, the top 1% ended up paying less. All the while, working Canadians, on average, are paying over 80% of working Canadians are paying more. So the Finance Minister isn't competent, and he can't follow the rules. Why is he still in cabinet?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I have full confidence in the Minister of Finance, and one only has to look at the 500,000 new jobs to understand why. But it's interesting. We've created Prime Minister question period on Wednesdays to give an opportunity to backbench MPs to ask the Prime Minister directly questions. But if the member opposite wants to see how much confidence I have in the Minister of Finance, he just needs to keep asking these questions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we're happy to keep asking.
We were hearing nice things about peace earlier. I like that. Let's try to have a bit. A little quiet when we hear the questions and the answers. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition has the floor.
We're happy to keep asking questions, Mr. Speaker. The reason why the Finance Minister is in trouble is because he can't simply answer the questions. He misled Canadians about putting his assets in a blind trust. He was fined for holding onto an offshore corporation and not disclosing it, and he introduced pension legislation that could benefit himself and his family company. And now he's refusing to answer simple questions about personal, multi-million-dollar transactions in Morneau-Chapelle. So how is it that the Prime Minister is able to blindly trust someone who has demonstrated such ethical lapses?
Right Honourable Prime Minister. Order. I'm unable to hear the answer from the Minister of Finance. Order. I'm going to need to hear it, or we'll have a shorter question period, perhaps. Alors.
Order.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we've reached a new low in this House. The opposition members clearly
The Honourable Minister of Finance. Order.
Mr. Speaker, there are no secrets here. As has been reported in the press, when I came into office, I sold some shares. As has been reported, when I came into office, I made a $5 million donation to charity. As we know, we campaigned to 36 million Canadians that we would raise taxes on the 1%, which we did. As everybody knows, except for perhaps the opposition, nobody knows about the stock market in advance. So, Mr. Speaker, if the members opposite have something they want to say, they should say it here, say it now clearly, and in the foyer.
Order. Alors.
Order.
President.
The honourable members must maintain order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's good to see the Finance Minister being allowed to answer a question. So if he's so sure that he's done nothing wrong, will he answer one very specific question? And this question has been posed in the House as well as outside of the House. Was it he that sold the shares, 680,000 shares, in Morneau-Chapelle just days before the motion was tabled in this House to change the tax rates?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
am absolutely happy to answer the question, as has been reported in the press. I did sell shares when I came into office. What I can say with absolute clarity, Mr. Speaker, is that what we're doing here is we are focusing on something because they don't want to focus on something else. What they don't want to focus on is how well things are going for Canadians. That's what we will continue to be focused on, Mr. Speaker. We will pursue what we know is in the best interest of Canadians. That's what's working. That's what we're going to continue to do.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he still won't answer that specific question. On November 30th, 680,000 shares in Morneau Chapelle were sold. Was it the Finance Minister who sold those shares?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say it again. There are no secrets here. If the member opposite has an allegation, if he wants to say something, he should say what he means. He should say it here. He should say it now. He should stand up and say it. And then he should go out in the foyer and say it again.
I know it's too much to expect love, but we did hear about peace earlier, and that was nice. The
Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-les-Basques.
Tout un gâchis, Monsieur le Président.
The Minister of Finance is responsible for this mess that he's in. On November 30th, someone sold 680 shares in Morneau Chapelle, just a week before the announcement of tax measures, which caused a drop in share value. Now, the Minister confirmed that he sold that many shares. From the outset, he could have gotten out of this mess by simply saying that it was him, that he was the one who sold his shares on the 30th of November. So my question is this: why isn't the Prime Minister demanding a clear answer from his Minister of Finance? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'm sorry that the comment by the member opposite didn't listen. The Minister of Finance just answered that question. The Honourable Member.
Monsieur le Président.
He didn't answer the question, Mr. Speaker. He decided not to answer, but
what the Finance Minister says anymore. It seems that he's constantly annoyed just by the simple questions that we're asking that are necessary and vital for a healthy democracy. He can't never give a straight answer. And I have a tip for him. Avoiding questions and threatening legal consequences to silence critics does nothing to exonerate him. In fact, it's making things worse. I would suggest another strategy that all Canadians could appreciate: telling the truth. When will the Prime Minister ask the Finance Minister to tell the truth?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister is answering questions. I'm answering questions. We are continuing to remain focused on the things that matter to Canadians. That's why we've created over 500,000 jobs over the past 2 years, why we have the strongest growth rates in the G7, why we've delivered a tax cut for the middle class and raised taxes on the wealthiest 1%, why we're delivering a Canada Child Benefit that's helping 9 families out of 10. Unfortunately, on that child benefit, of course, the members opposite, NDP and Conservatives, voted against it.
Unbelievable.
Honorable député.
the Honourable Member for Rosemont, La Petite Patrie. Well, this is not going well at all, Mr. Speaker. Now, the Minister of Finance is in trouble up to his eyeballs. He misled the House. He tabled a bill that enriched himself. He put himself in a conflict of interest, and he's under investigation. And then thousands of shares in Morneau Chapelle were mysteriously sold just a few days before a major tax announcement. When people say that they don't believe politicians, that everyone here is crooked, well, that's what they're talking about. Liberals, in order to restore confidence, said that's what they were here to do. How can the Prime Minister still have confidence in his Minister of Finance? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Canadians can judge members in this House and what they're saying by seeing whether or not members are prepared to make the same remarks outside of this House where parliamentary privilege doesn't exist. So I would suggest the member opposite to clearly state what he is stating here outside of these walls, and we'll see then if there will be, he will continue to make the same allegations.
Order. The Honourable Member for Skinner-Bulkley Valley.
Newsflash for the Prime Minister, we have said all of these exact things outside of the House as well as in. The Prime Minister's own clear promise to Canadians was that he and his ministers must not be, and I quote, in a conflict of interest or even in the appearance of a conflict of interest. The Prime Minister said he would be different. He said he would answer questions, so let's test that promise. Has the Prime Minister asked his Finance Minister if he cleared the sale of $10 million of shares with the Ethics Commissioner before he introduced major changes to the tax code? By not holding his Finance Minister accountable, how would he expect any Canadian to believe anything he has to say?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the NDP and the Conservatives are pretending there was some sort of secret here that we were going to lower taxes for the middle class and raise them on the wealthiest 1%. We campaigned on that promise, Mr. Speaker. They lost because of that promise. I know they remember it. So the fabrications and the personal attacks and the slinging of mud in this place, hiding behind parliamentary privilege, is not what Canadians expect from this place. Perfect.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, in Canada, executives at financial institutions must disclose their transactions on the stock exchange. Those measures were put in place precisely to prevent insider trading. The Minister of Finance is the CEO of finances in Canada. He dictates the rules of the game, so he must be above all doubt and set the example. If the Minister of Finance doesn't want to be transparent with Canadians, how does the Prime Minister maintain confidence in him? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, the members opposite are making insinuations that they don't want to state clearly and that they don't want to repeat outside of this House. They are hiding behind parliamentary privilege. This is proof, Mr. Speaker, that it is a smear campaign against the Minister of Finance, a Minister of Finance who is doing such a good job of managing the economy. We are leading in the G7. We've created 500,000 new jobs. We're helping Canadian families across the country and will continue to do so. The Honourable Member for Richmond Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. Over the past 2 years, it has been shown that the Minister of Finance violated ethics laws. He forgot to put his shares in a blind trust. He forgot to declare his villa in France. He didn't identify his number companies, and the cherry on the sundae, his sale of 680,000 shares sold off right before he announced a measure that would be put into place. No one has any confidence in the minister anymore. What is the Prime Minister waiting for to fire him? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this is a smear campaign by the opposition that has nothing else to say. We are showing, we have proof of economic growth following 10 years under Stephen Harper, where we had the worst growth record since the Second World War. The work that we are doing is having a positive impact on Canadians. And the opposition has nothing apart from smear campaign tactics.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the Prime Minister has rehearsed yesterday's talking points because, in fact, our Finance Shadow Minister did go outside the House and repeated everything that was said inside the House. Now, it may be a standard practice on Bay Street to threaten legal action anytime legitimate questions are raised, but that isn't befitting of a Finance Minister. If he believes he did nothing wrong, can the Finance Minister simply confirm or deny whether or not it was he who sold 680,000 shares days before the motion to change taxes was tabled in the House?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I can understand that it be the Leader of the Opposition who chooses to get up again because the member for Carleton refused to repeat the allegations he made on Monday outside this House yesterday. He is hiding behind parliamentary privilege, and I don't blame the Leader of the Opposition for taking his place right now.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker,
I think the Prime Minister and Finance Minister are jumping the gun. The accusations haven't been made because we're just trying to get an answer to the question. Was it the Finance Minister who sold 680,000 shares days before the motion was tabled in the House? It's up to him to answer the question. If he did it, will he defend it? If he didn't do it, why can't he just say it?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Now, Mr. Speaker, we see a bit of damage control where the opposition is trying to hide behind lawyers and hide behind parliamentary privilege. On Monday, the opposition made allegations that they have refused to repeat outside this chamber. The member from Carleton swept out of this chamber and then refused to repeat what he had said on Monday outside this chamber. And now, Mr. Speaker, they're backtracking because their lawyers have told them to. That's the kind of attacks and campaign of going dirt that they've been doing.
Order. I want to remind members that each side gets their turn, and members on one side should have confidence in those who will have the chance to speak for their side, to make the arguments that they feel should be made, not have to make them while someone else is speaking and has the floor, and wait till they have the chance and they have the floor. So let's listen to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition and then to the answer.
Mr. Speaker, all the facts that have been said inside the House by opposition MPs have been repeated outside the House. Those are yesterday's talking points the Prime Minister is going off of. But when we look at the facts, the Liberal campaign platform would lead Canadians to believe that the fiscal changes would take place and come into effect on April 1st in 2016. Only when the Finance Minister decided that they would come into effect in December of 2015, and only when the public knew about that, would markets move. Days before that decision was announced to Canadians, 680,000 shares were sold. Was it the Finance Minister who made the sale?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You see, Mr. Speaker, opposition members have a job to do. They have to oppose. And the challenge they have right now is, despite 10 years of terrible economic stories from Stephen Harper's Conservative government, we have been able to demonstrate record growth, record job creation. We've helped millions of Canadians by lowering taxes on the middle class and raising them on the wealthiest 1%. They voted against those measures, but they now have nothing to do except make wild accusations and sling mud, because that's simply what they do.
Fred, I have to ask the member for St. Albert Edmonton to restrain himself and not to be interrupting when someone else has the floor. I know it's an exciting moment, but we have to restrain ourselves. The Honourable Leader of the... It seems the member for St. Albert Edmonton did not hear me and is not listening. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister cannot answer simple questions. We've asked them, did the Finance Minister meet with the Ethics Commissioner before tabling Bill C-27? They can't answer that. We've asked whether or not it was the Finance Minister himself who sold the shares just days before tax measures became public here in the House of Commons. They can't answer that. They cannot hide behind sweeping dismissals based on personal accusations. It's up to them to answer these questions. We have an obligation to defend the interests of taxpayers. Canadians need to know that there isn't one set of rules for Liberals and another set of rules for everybody else. Will the Finance Minister finally do the right thing and resign?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the members of the opposition can't even keep their stories straight in their attacks. For weeks, they demanded that the Finance Minister sell his shares. Now, they're saying that he should not have sold his shares. They are all over the place in their attacks because that is just what they do. Meanwhile, we remain focused on Canadians, on lowering taxes for the middle class, on lowering taxes for small businesses, on creating investments in infrastructure that are going to help Canadians from coast to coast to coast, on delivering on the promises we made in the election campaign the Canadians are counting on.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, in yesterday's apology to the LGBTQ community, the Prime Minister acknowledged that we still have a lot of work to do. The bill to expunge criminal records in cases of consensual same-sex activity has now been tabled. The bill to standardize the age of consent, however, has been languishing on the order paper for a long time now. Will the Prime Minister commit to working with us to ensure the adoption of these two bills prior to the adjournment of the House for the holiday season? The Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was a historic moment for Canadians and for this House and for future generations. We acknowledged the wrongs that were committed institutionally to the LGBTQ2 community. And as the member opposite has mentioned today, a great deal of work remains to be done. We have a great deal of work to put in place the legislative changes to ensure that the community understands that never again will there be discrimination like that in the future.
After yesterday's historic apology to the LGBTQ community, and with the answer we just had from the Prime Minister, we see an opportunity here to begin to address some of the unfinished business the Prime Minister has been talking about. So, in order to do that, will the Prime Minister join us in seeking agreement from all members of this House to deal with Bill C-66 before Christmas, so that gay men with criminal records for same-sex consensual activity can have those records extinguished?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member opposite for his long advocacy for human rights, for LGBTQ2 rights, and for rights of all Canadians over many years. It was an honour to stand with him in this House yesterday. As the member mentioned, as the member mentions, there is still much work to be done, and we look forward to working with all members of this House to get it done as quickly as we can.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Yesterday I repeated outside of the House the same questions that I've been asking inside of the House. Unfortunately, the Minister will not answer those questions in either of those two places. Somebody sold $10 million of shares. A week before, this minister introduced tax changes that caused the stock market and Morneau Shepell shares to drop. Was that somebody him?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
You see, once again, the lawyers have got into their questions. But on Monday, Mr. Speaker, the member from Carleton made a very clear accusation in this House. He then swept out of the House yesterday and did not repeat that allegation outside of the House. He is hiding behind parliamentary privilege, which is why Canadians can know that this is nothing but unfounded, personal, baseless attacks and not substantive criticism of the government.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Fact, on December 7th, this minister introduced tax changes that gave an incentive for investors to sell their stocks and realize their capital gains before the new year and the new tax increase would take effect. Fact, the stock market dropped and Morneau Shepell shares dropped by 5%. Fact, the Finance Department has revealed that this phenomenon led to a reduction in revenues of almost $1 billion in the subsequent year. These are all facts. He sold his shares at some point. I'm asking again, did he sell them immediately before he introduced that measure? Yes or no?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, we have courts that are very able to determine facts in cases like this. However, the member opposite, by only saying these sorts of things in this chamber, protected by parliamentary privilege, as we all should be, is demonstrating that he does not want to test his allegations in the courts. He does not want to actually have to stand behind his words in a court of law. That is the baselessness of facts.
I want to remind the member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston that people on his side will have the chance to ask other questions, of course, and he should wait and allow them to do that, not feel that he has to make the argument while someone else is speaking. The member for Carleton has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I'm simply asking the question. That side is demanding that we make allegations against the finance minister. It's a very strange way for question period to unfold. The reality is if a chief financial officer sold stocks a week before disappointing quarterly financial results were released, losing his job would be the least of his problems. He would be fired. Will the CEO of the Government of Canada fire his CFO now?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, we see, Mr. Speaker, that the opposition are filled with sound and fury signifying nothing. They refuse to actually follow up on the insinuations and allegations they made clearly in this House on Monday because they realized they went too far, because their desire to attack and to sling mud against the honour and integrity of people on this side of the House crossed some lines, and that's why they are unable and unwilling to go out and repeat what they said on Monday outside of this House, which tells Canadians that this is nothing but bluster.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I invited the Finance Minister to meet me out in the foyer, where I could repeat the same question out there that I asked in here. Unfortunately, he was a no-show. So I'll give him another chance. Where and when would he like to meet outside of this chamber so I can ask the same question and maybe he could answer it?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the member opposite seems a little bit muddled. This is the room for questions. For him to go outside is to make a statement.
Order. No, we're only 28. Sleeps till Christmas, but order. Let's try not to be too excited. Order. Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor. Order.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we are happy to take questions inside this chamber, but at issue are the statements that the members opposite made on Monday that they are unwilling to repeat outside. That is the question. Will the member from Carleton walk outside and repeat the statements made on Monday outside where he's not hiding behind parliamentary privilege?
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. The Social Security Tribunal is a real failure. Some people who are unemployed had to wait over a year to be heard. That is unacceptable. During the election campaign, the Prime Minister promised to reform this process. 2 years later, nothing. The Liberals have in their hands a report by KPMG on how to make the tribunal more efficient, but they still haven't made it public. Are we to understand that the report's recommendations are not to their liking? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, after the former Conservative government did a lot of harm to workers that counted on EI throughout the country, we committed during the election campaign to reversing changes to EI that the Conservative government had implemented. That is exactly what we did do. We are making sure that Canadians who need assistance, who are living through a moment without a job, can get the support they need. We are still investing in EI to make sure that people have all the help that they need, and we will continue to do so. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. The decline of print media is really being felt in our regions. Back home in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Newspapers like Le Quotidien and Progress Weekend are less and less able to count on revenue from advertising. Since the Liberal government says that information is a concern of theirs, I call on it to act and to support print media just as it supported other industries where just as many jobs are on the line. Will the government commit to providing temporary financial assistance until a permanent solution can be found and to support these good jobs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we understand just how much Canadians depend on local newspapers and local press to give them information, to give them local information, and that helps unite them as a community. We are going to continue to invest millions of dollars in advertising support to newspapers. We recognize that there's a transformation going on in the industry. We will continue to support and to help media because it is important to have media that is resilient and free in a democratic society.
For Yukon.
Monsieur le Président, le Premier ministre a annoncé aujourd'hui qu'il propose de nommer l'honorable Sheila L. Martin à la Cour suprême du Canada. La personne proposée occupera le siège laissé vacant avec le départ à la retraite de la juge en chef Beverly McLaughlin, suite à sa carrière judiciaire remarquable. Justice Martin had been sitting on the courts of the Northwest Territories and Nunavut, and previously sat on Alberta's Court of Queen's Bench and the Yukon Supreme.
Order. I'm sorry for interrupting, but apparently there's no interpretation. So, and is there now? Once that starts.
Test. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister announced today that he has proposed to appoint the Honourable Sheila L. Martin to the Supreme Court of Canada. The person proposed will occupy the vacant seat with the departure of Chief Justice Beverly McLaughlin after her distinguished legal career.
In the Courts of Appeal of Alberta, the Northwest Territories and Nunavut, and previously sat on Alberta's Court of Queen's Bench and the Yukon Supreme Court. May the Prime Minister please inform this House how this selection was made.
Honourable Prime Minister.
I would like to thank the member for Yukon for his question and for his excellent French. It is my pleasure to announce the appointment of Honourable Sheila L. Martin to the Supreme Court. With her vast experience and many distinctions that she has acquired, she will be a precious addition to the Supreme Court.
Nomination under our new selection process, which promotes greater openness, transparency, and accountability. We are committed to appointing justices of the highest caliber, functionally bilingual, and representative of our diversity. Permit me also to once again thank Chief Justice McLaughlin for her extraordinary service to Canada.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Not only does the Finance Minister, is the Finance Minister unable to answer questions and follow the rules, he can't count. He said the deficit would be $10 billion. It was 20. He said taxes would go up on the rich, and in fact, the rich are paying $1 billion less. He said taxes would go down for the middle class, but 87% of them are paying more. When will this Prime Minister do the right thing and fire this incompetent minister who can't follow the rules?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are jealous of our economic record. For 10 years, they showed the lowest growth numbers since R.B. Bennett in the Great Depression, and we, in 2 years, by doing exactly what we committed to do in the election campaign, putting more money in the pockets of the middle class and those working hard to join it, have turned around the Canadian economy and shown that their policy of helping the rich and benefits to the most wealthy does not work. We're delivering lower taxes for the middle class, raising them on the wealthiest 1%, and helping Canadian families.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, speaking of the most wealthy, we know that those with good financial advice who were privileged to know what they should do with their money declared their income in the 2015 tax year. They sold their shares before the year finished and therefore were taxed at a lower rate than they wanted to charge on other people. Now, one of them might have been the finance minister if he did, in fact, sell those $10 million worth of shares on November 30th of 2015. Did he?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, you can see the dilemma in which the opposition finds themselves. We have demonstrated that on what was supposed to be their strength, the economy, our plan actually works far better than any of theirs ever did. And it leaves them with very little to be able to attack us on, because the economy's doing well, the middle class is growing and being supported. We are putting up the best growth numbers of anyone in the G7 thanks to our extraordinary finance minister. So all they have to do is sling mud, baseless allegations, and hide behind parliamentary privilege.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, what is extraordinary is a finance minister that breaks the law and fails to report his offshore company. What is also extraordinary is implying that he put all of his money in a blind trust, but in fact keeping it knowingly invested in a company he regulates. It's also extraordinary that he introduced a bill that would help that company with changes to pension law. And it's extraordinary that after 3 days of questioning, he still can't tell us if he sold shares in that company just a week before he introduced tax legislation. With these extraordinary failures, will he resign?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we have a very simple principle of listening to Canadians. That is what we did for years while we were the third party in the House. That is what we continue to do to stay connected with Canadians. Unfortunately, for 10 years, Stephen Harper didn't do a very good job of listening to Canadians, and over the past 2 years, we see that these Conservatives are doing exactly the same thing. They didn't listen to Canadians tell them that baseless attacks and personal dirt mudslinging jobs have no traction with Canadians who want real.
The Honourable Member for Carleton. Order.
The Prime Minister says they have one principle. Actually, they have two different principles, one for themselves and one for everybody else. For example, when this minister brought in his tax increase on small businesses, it was a higher rate for the pizza shop owner and the plumber, but no new taxes for his company, Morneau Chappelle. When he brought in his tax increase that would affect people on their capital gains, he made sure, or did he, to sell his shares before that tax increase came into effect, while others would have to pay more. Why won't he follow the simple principle of accountability?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
See, again, Mr. Speaker, we see the challenge that the Conservatives find themselves in. A great example is our commitment to lower taxes on small businesses. For months, they spent all their time trying to scare small businesses like pizza shop owners and plumbers that we were going to hurt them or raise their taxes, when we consistently said that we were going to stand up for them and ensure that the measures we had only affected the most wealthy. And then, at the end of it all, they sort of find themselves unable to actually criticize us on it because we're doing the right thing, as we said we would, and they have to.
The Honourable Member for Foothills will come to order, please. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
The Minister of Environment is facing court action for failing to comply with laws protecting Canada's boreal woodland caribou. She has just this week received a petition seeking an order to protect the critical habitat of 5 severely threatened caribou herds in northeastern Alberta. Successive governments have failed in their mandatory duties to ensure the protection. The province admits it lacks the necessary powers. Will the Environment Minister immediately recommend to this government to issue a Section 61 order to save these herds?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Seriously, the responsibility of protecting our natural environment. We know that protecting the environment and growing the economy go together. We will continue to work with our partners, including conservation groups and provinces and territories, to ensure that we are fulfilling all our obligations in terms of protection, protecting species at risk, in terms of keeping our environment protected for future generations.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Children at St. Anne's Residential School suffered nightmarish levels of abuse, torture, and child rape, and yet the Office of the Attorney General suppressed thousands of pages of police evidence that identified those perpetrators, and in doing so, they had cases thrown out and undermined the hearings. And now that the Justice Department has been forced to turn over those documents, they claim it's inadmissible unless a survivor finds a witness to verify these atrocities. To the Prime Minister, enough. The survivors of St. Anne's deserve better. Will he instruct his government to end this obstruction of justice against the survivors of St. Anne's once and for all?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the ills done to Indigenous people over decades and centuries of colonialism in this country are shameful and are something that we need to learn from and move forward on. That includes respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples now in all their different aspects, and that's why we are working with survivors, working with communities to ensure that we can move forward in a way that is fully respectful of all their rights as we get to the bottom of this, understand their history, and make reparations in the right way moving forward.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. On November 30th, 2015, an individual sold 680,000 shares from Mona Chappelle. A week later, the Minister of Finance tabled a tax measure that led to a 5% loss in value to Mona Chappelle's shares. Earlier, the Prime Minister answered in English, but I will offer him the opportunity to answer in French. Is he the one who sold those shares, yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what we're seeing is the dilemma in which the members of the opposition are in. They can't criticize us or attack us on our economic track record, which is extremely positive for Canadians, for the middle class. And so they decide to launch themselves into a smear campaign in order to hide behind parliamentary privilege and not repeating their allegations outside of this room. I know that Canadians expect better from all members in this House, including members of the opposition, and we're going to see if they start to deliver. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Canadians expect a responsible government. Canadians expect for the Minister of Finance to give clear answers. Canadians do not expect that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance to be investigated by the Ethics Commissioner. Canadians do not expect for the Minister of Finance be unable to tell us if yes or no he's the one who sold those 680,000 shares 1 week before he tabled tax measures that led to a 5% loss in the value of his family's company's shares. Did he do it, yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the members in this place and all Canadians are going to see that the Minister has already answered these questions. They continue to lead a smear attack because they have nothing else to do. They can't criticize us because after 2 years, we've already demonstrated an economic track record that is much more positive and helped many more Canadians than they did in 10 years. Despite their so-called economic expertise, the Conservatives are demonstrating that they are just empty shells. And we are the ones who are delivering on economic growth. The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-de-Lion, Charlevoix. I will ask that while everything to do with the Minister of Finance is dubious and hypocritical, he would try to have us believe the opposite by refusing to answer our questions. Canada's finances must be administered by a person who is responsible, transparent, and honest because it is Canadians' money. With the Commissioner's investigations ongoing, gains in his personal interests, and his refusal to answer questions about his financial transactions, will the Prime Minister dismiss his Minister of Finance, yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what we're seeing in the conversations we have with Canadians, whether it be in Lac-Saint-Jean or South Surrey White Rock or anywhere else in the country, it is that Canadians recognize that our record of economic growth and the impact of the Canada Child Benefit, the impact of lowering taxes for the middle class, And the increase in taxes for the wealthiest is helping our communities, is helping our families, helping individuals. That is what we are doing, and that is why the opposition has nothing better to do than a smear campaign, because they can't criticize us otherwise.
Mr. Speaker, from coast to coast to coast, housing advocates are raving about Canada's first ever national housing strategy. Many are calling the national housing strategy a game changer. Others are saying that the national housing strategy is a model of how modern, progressive policy making should be done. No less an authority than the UN Special Rapporteur on Housing is calling the strategy an incredible moment for Canada and our leadership on human rights. Could the Prime Minister please inform the House what the first ever national housing strategy means for all Canadians?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
I thank the member from Scarborough Centre for her question and for her extraordinary community leadership. The National Housing Strategy is not just the first ever national housing strategy in Canada, it's also the first time a federal government has committed itself to a human rights-based approach to housing. We're going to reduce chronic homelessness by 50%, build up to 400,000 new repaired or renovated units, and remove 500,000 households and individuals from housing need. We're all proud of delivering real and historic change to the Canadians who need it most.
The honourable member for Niagara West.
John Chang and Allison Liu are Canadian citizens who have been unfairly detained in China since March 2016 over a customs dispute. According to their daughter Amy, who is in Ottawa today, it's been over 6 months since she has heard and just had discussions with multiple ministers in this government who said they would look into it and they would move on this, and yet she's heard nothing. We need to bring John and Allison home. As the Prime Minister heads to China next week, will he promise to raise this issue and refuse to discuss any new trade agreement with China until John and Allison are released?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Canadians well know that wherever I travel around the world, I stand up for Canadian values and human rights, and will continue to, including in China. The plight of Canadians anywhere around the world is of deep concern to this government, and that's why we've had so much good news over the past 2 years in our capacity to bring Canadians home. We know that engaging with China to be able to set the rules and ensure opportunities for Canadian workers and Canadian businesses to succeed in a globalized world is just the right thing to do, and we will do it while standing up for Canadian values and human rights.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, Christmas Eve 2016, Nicolas Faubert from Saint-Hilaire died in a tragic accident. He was the sponsor of a permanent residency request from his spouse and her son. The request was approved, but because of this tragic death, Sophie had to go back to square one. We can't hide behind privacy protection. Will the government end this injustice and grant Sophie her status of permanent residency? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Canada is a generous and compassionate country, and we understand how important it is to help people in need here and throughout the world. We will always look for a way to better help people. I know that this particular case is being carefully reviewed by the Department of Immigration. I know that everyone wants the best in this situation while making sure that we maintain a robust and whole immigration system. The Honourable Member for Avignon, Amitis, Matapédia. Last July, the Minister of Agriculture signed with his provincial and territorial counterparts the Canadian Agricultural Partnership, the next 5-year strategic agricultural framework for Canada. Can the Prime Minister explain to this House the federal programs and investments that are going to be made within the Canadian Agricultural Partnerships framework? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for Avignon, L'Amitis, Matapédia for his question and for his leadership in the Quebec caucus. Last week, we announced federal investments of $1 million within the framework of the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. This investment will open markets to our farmers, improve innovation and sustainability of the sector, and reinforce it as as it better reflects diversity of our communities and maintain public trust.
Mr. Speaker, 200 million women alive today have undergone female genital mutilation. Today, the United Nations tweeted as part of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence that, quote, FGM is a human rights violation. We must end cutting now for a better future for young girls. Canada's Citizenship Guide informs newcomers that FGM is a crime in Canada. However, Canada's Prime Minister has decided to delete this information. Will the Prime Minister stand with the United Nations and FGM survivors and reverse his decision?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, not only do I stand with the United Nations on this and many other issues, I actually personally brought up this issue when I was in Liberia, challenging local leaders and local governments to step up on the fight against FGM. We will continue to stand against violence against women. We will continue to lead the way, pushing for an end to these barbaric practices of female genital mutilation everywhere around the world. This is something, and here in Canada, this is something we take very seriously.
Order. Order. The Honourable Member from Montcalm. Order. Mr. Speaker, the 2016 funding report reveals a coincidence that is troubling for the riding of Papineau. On July 6th and 7th of 2016, as the Liberal government was authorizing a Chinese bank in Vancouver, the Prime Minister received nearly $70,000 from wealthy Chinese individuals in Vancouver for his riding. That represents 2/3 of his funding in less than 48 hours. How can he explain this? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Elections Canada is there to make sure that all the rules when it comes to funding are followed. I am proud of the rules when it comes to political funding that apply here to the House of Commons at the federal level. We will always make sure that all the rules are followed.
On November 22nd, 2017, the following motion was adopted by the House of Commons: that, notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, following question period on Wednesday, November 29, 2017, the House resolve itself into a committee of the whole in order to welcome Canada's 2017 Special Olympics World Winter Games athletes, provided that A, the Speaker be permitted to preside over the committee of the whole from the Speaker's chair and make welcoming remarks on behalf of the House, B, the names of the athletes, coaches, and mission staff present be deemed read and printed in the House of Commons debates for that day, C, only authorized photographers be permitted to take photos during the proceedings of the committee, and D, when the proceedings of the committee have concluded, the committee shall rise. La Chambre se formera mettre.
The House will now resolve itself into Committee of the Whole.
It is my pleasure to welcome onto the floor of the Chamber many of the athletes who competed in the 2017 Special Olympic World Winter Games in Austria last March, led by the chef de mission and the 2017 honorary coach.
Now it is my great pleasure to welcome onto the floor of the Chamber many of the athletes who competed in the 2017 Special Olympic World Winter Games in Austria last March.
These athletes on the floor of the chamber and in the gallery have competed in alpine skiing, cross-country skiing, figure skating, floor hockey, snowshoeing, and speed skating. Canadians from across the country are justly proud of you, and so are we. Like them, we appreciate the years of training and sacrifice and the determination it takes to become a world-class athlete. Vous êtes tous des champions.
You are all champions, and you are a source of inspiration to your fellow citizens.
It's also an opportunity to recognize coaches, mission staff, and Special Olympics Canada for their hard work and dedication. I should have asked colleagues to wait for the part where I say many of them are sitting in the gallery, and I would ask them to stand. Congratulations again. Félicitations. Thank you all for representing Canada so well in the Special Olympics, and good luck in your future endeavors. Les députés sont conviés à...
Members are invited to a reception in room 237C to meet our distinguished guests.
Sorry? Canada, our home and native land, through patriot love, in all our sons command, à t'embrasser, porter l'épée. The committee will rise. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The committee will rise. Order. I would encourage honourable members to take their conversations into the lobbies, and I know those are important conversations, but we need to go on, of course, with the business of the day. I'd ask colleagues to join me. It doesn't seem too necessary, but perhaps my colleagues could say, shh. Thank you, colleagues. Tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Monsieur le Président, au nom du...
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, pursuant to Standing Order 38-2, I have the honour to table in both official languages the agreement entitled Agreement between the Government of Canada and the Government of China on sharing and return of forfeited assets from September 2016. Explanatory notes accompany this document.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 36(8), I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's response to 10 petitions.
Dépôt de projet de loi émanant du gouvernement.
Introduction of government bills.
Création de ministres.
Statements by ministers.
Reports from interparliamentary delegations. The Honourable Member for Coastal Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 30.